You know what it's like. You pick up the bass you've never played before.
Yeah.
You're like, ow, this hurts. Ow, I have a blister. But while that was happening, he's like, okay, here's how you read the E, A, D, G, and then next you're moving on. And so by the time I could actually play and form a sentence, I knew how to read everything. And so I remember being 12 and in math class, which I also loved, but I remember vividly like doing arpeggios, like all right, root third fifth, root flat third fifth, root flat third, flat five. Okay, got that? Now sevenths, root third fifth, seven, root third fifth, flat seven. And I remember digesting all of that before my playing was really up to speed. So much so that I started giving lessons when I was 14.
Yeah.
Now,
because you'd sort of like got the harmony down.
I had gotten all the harmony. I was now playing. I could learn songs easily. I was a solid bass player. I wasn't the musician that's well-rounded and can go, the ear training, but it was kind of meant to be. A lot of people, it's like you get to it early, and I had a lot to go, much further to go, but I had done probably 80% of my learning so concentrated, and I was in a small town, which the guy that taught me bass lessons at the music store didn't even play bass. He was an organ player. It would just
great to learn.
It was amazing, bass, and he would accompany. I would accompany him really, but he would be like, "What do you want to do?" He'd have me play a lot of blues. We'd go through the Mel Bay books. And then it was like, well, I'm interested in Rush. And so we'd grab a transcription thing. And he's like, okay, I'll help you play it and read it. And then I'm in the jazz band. And I'm just suddenly reading and playing all styles of music all day long.
Super open to it, yeah.
I was always into it. And I just did a podcast with a guy who's a drummer. And he likes to talk to guys. And it just, all these thoughts came back to me. It's like, I remember sort of being teased by my buddies because some of them were in jazz band, and that was fine, but they thought jazz band was not cool, and I just loved being able to read all day long and being like, oh, I'm into Ray Brown and Paul Chambers, and just really gravitating to the blues, big band stuff we would play, and just having the opportunity to read. And then I remember when I got my first New Year's Eve jazz gig, and I was thrilled, because New Year's Eve gigs, like, big bucks. I was probably getting 40 or 50 bucks for a gig if I was lucky. Suddenly I'm making 200 bucks. I was like, I was looking for any excuse to not have to go to a party and try to talk to a girl oh God, New Year's Eve, what do I do? And it's like, I got a gig, and my friends would, they would tease me lovingly, but it's like, I'm playing with old guys suddenly. I just loved it. So I also thought, you'd read something in Bass Player magazine, and suddenly it's like, ooh, what's this session musician? I want to play on a jingle. I want to do, and I thought, there's one local studio in town. I'll go play on jingles there. Like, news to me, they weren't making any jingles out of that studio. But I remember passing through there. There were some other musicians that were, if you wanted to record a song, you would go to that guy's place. And just seeing it all, so by the time I was 15 or 16, I had at least done so much more than I would have thought I would do. And and maybe if I grew up in a bigger city, I wouldn't have had access to do it, because there would have been 25 guys of my age or a little older that were already got there before me, before I realized, I want to do that. It's like, well, 10 dudes just called us this morning.
Did you get into the jazz thing because of school?
I think so. It was probably through that teacher, the organ player.
Because it really helps you learn the fingerboard, right?
There's no way to study electric bass and really get into depth without touching on jazz. So
walking bass lines, arpeggios.
It's like, if you're only going to play rock and pop, it's like, well, you really just stop at the E and A string. So because I was a straight A student with academics, I was like, this is something I like. I want to learn all about it. And so that guy, recognizing that in me, he just kept throwing me stuff. And I also wanted to work at the music store, because I thought that would be the coolest thing. So I actually worked at the music store. I gave lessons there before I worked there. And then it was a coup to get the gig. It's like they had one employee. That guy graduated from high school and left. So I got the job. And I remember bringing in my Jocko CD, and we could listen to music while we were working there and trying to sell Charvel, instruments.
Charvels,
Totally, it was a time of Ibanez and Charvel and heavy on the Peavey.
Yeah, Jackson's.
Oh, that was like, I mean,
Yeah.
that was big bucks
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
could save up for a Jackson. So it must have been through the jazz band that I met a jazz bass player who was a teacher, and we would do these competitions, and so you'd have to prepare a piece that was, every kid would have to prepare the same piece.
Yeah. Okay, yeah.
So I remember doing that and having a teacher, and there was a local guitar player who would bring in this bass player from 30 miles away. There was a local college in Westfield, Mass, Westfield State, and that bass player had a 5-string with a high C, and so he would play chords, and I was like, want to do that. And so I totally was like, I'll take lessons from him, I'll copy him, Hartke, cab, GK head, Ibanez 5-string with a high C. All right, let's get to it.
My life is good.
Right. He taught me how to play, like voicings, where I still remember the voicings on my 5-string with a high C, but I learned jazz was the gateway to like learn all about harmony and theory, and to play a solo, or to at least feel like, well, my limits are now a little bit higher, so I'll explore even more. I accompanied singers. I didn't have any barrier in my head to like, well, I'm not going to play that because that's not cool. Like that teacher was like, get Joe's Garage, get the White Album, get Kind of Blue, and he just was like, get all these records and then move on from there. Yeah. So I did, and I was a good student. Like, you tell me what to do and I would do it, and then I would develop my own opinion. Like, ooh, I really like that. Let me dig a little deeper.
Yeah, figuring out what was working for you.
Yeah, and then there's musicians that around town are like the Black Page and this and that, and you just feel like, shit, I should probably figure out how to do that. Like, I should figure out how to learn a Jocko song because everyone's telling me to. And someone else made me learn a Cliff Burton solo, and I really liked Sting, and I just let me eat it, have a taste of everything.
And from there, did you, like, because obviously you went to Berkeley.